On a quiet spring evening, a young woman named Madeline Soto vanished without a trace. She was more than just another face in the crowd. Madeline was a vibrant individual, cherished by those around her. Her infectious laughter and the kindness she radiated were enough to brighten any room. In her small-town community, she was beloved, known for her volunteering and her passion for helping others. Madeline had a routine, as we all do. She'd start her day with a jog around the local park, her faithful golden retriever Daisy always by her side. Then she'd head off to her job at the town library, where her love for literature was well known. Her evenings were often spent either volunteering at the local animal shelter or enjoying a quiet night in with her family. However, on the day of her disappearance, Madeline's routine took a strange turn. She didn't come home from the library. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and her family's worry began to mount. As hours rolled into the night, her golden retriever Daisy was found alone in the park, her leash still attached. It was out of character for Madeline to leave Daisy unattended, and this sparked the first wave of panic. What followed was a town-wide search. Friends, family, and even strangers rallied together, combing every inch of the town and its surrounding woods. Missing person posters bearing Madeline's smiling face were plastered on every telephone pole, every storefront window, spreading her story far and wide. The local police department worked tirelessly, leaving no stone unturned. Yet, despite these efforts, there was no sign of Madeline. As days turned into weeks, hope dwindled. The town, once vibrant and full of life, fell into a somber silence. But the search did not stop. Madeline's face continued to gaze out from posters and screens, a constant reminder of the mystery that had gripped the community. And as the investigation pressed on, one thing became clear. The search for Madeline Soto continued. With no sign of Madeline, the case took a chilling turn as investigators dove deeper into the mystery. As the hours turned into days, Madeline's disappearance began to grip the hearts of people far and wide. Law enforcement was quick to respond, with local and state police joining forces in the search. The townsfolk, too, were not left out. They mobilized themselves, forming search parties, distributing missing posters, and spreading the word about Madeline in every possible way. Yet, despite the tireless efforts of both the community and the police, finding Madeline proved to be a daunting task. The initial leads were sparse, offering no substantial direction to the investigation. The first clues were as puzzling as they were chilling. Madeline's personal belongings found scattered near a local park suggested a struggle, but with no witnesses, the investigators were left grappling with a jigsaw puzzle with too many missing pieces. The investigative team faced an uphill battle. The lack of CCTV footage in the area where Madeline was last seen added to the complexity of the case. The vagueness of the initial clues, coupled with the absence of a clear motive or suspect, created a thick fog around the investigation. Each lead seemed to only deepen the enigma of Madeline's disappearance, rather than bringing clarity. But in the world of crime investigation, persistence is key. The detectives on Madeline's case knew this all too well. They pressed on, combing through every piece of evidence, no matter how insignificant it seemed. They interviewed countless individuals, hoping that someone somewhere knew something about Madeline's fate. And then, just as hope seemed to be fading, a new lead emerged. A small piece of evidence that had initially been overlooked suddenly took on a new significance. A break in the case was on the horizon, promising a glimmer of hope in the bleak landscape of the ongoing investigation. While the leads were few and far between, a break in the case was about to come from the most unexpected place. Just when it seemed like the case was growing cold, a new piece of evidence pointed to a chilling suspect. In the labyrinth of uncertainty that was Madeline Soto's disappearance, a beacon of light emerged. A previously overlooked detail, a small piece of evidence, finally pointed investigators to a potential suspect. A fingerprint, belonging to none other than a man named Richard Donovan. Who was Richard Donovan, you ask? A seemingly ordinary man, living a seemingly ordinary life. He was a mechanic by trade, a lover of old cars, and a resident of the same small Californian town as Madeline. On the surface, he was just another face in the crowd, but dig a little deeper, and a darker image of Donovan began to form. Donovan and Madeline, it turned out, shared more than just a postal code. They had a history, a connection that was far from innocent. Madeline used to be a frequent customer at Donovan's garage. Their relationship, initially professional, took a turn for the personal. Tensions began to rise, disagreements became regular, and the two had a falling out. Donovan, a man known for his short temper, had a potential motive. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. A motive does not a murderer make. So what solidified Donovan's place as a suspect? It was the discovery of a piece of Madeline's jewelry, a distinctive locket, found in the trunk of one of Donovan's restored classic cars. This was the missing piece of the puzzle, the link that connected Donovan to Madeline's disappearance. Suddenly, everything began to fall into place. Donovan's erratic behavior, his sudden interest in leaving town, his attempts to sell his prized classic car, all these actions started to make sense. And as investigators closed in, the suspect's world began to crumble. With the suspect in their sights, law enforcement moved in, leading to a dramatic arrest and subsequent trial. In the late evening hours, a squadron of police vehicles, lights flashing, converged on the suspect's residence. The tension was palpable as officers prepared to apprehend the man linked to the disappearance of Madeline Soto. The arrest was a significant turning point in a case that had gripped the nation. The evidence was damning. Forensic experts testified, presenting the court with meticulous details of the DNA analysis that linked the suspect to the crime scene. They wove a tale of science and technology, painting a picture of a man who thought he could evade justice. The defense, however, was not without its arguments. They challenged the validity of the DNA evidence, questioning the methods of collection and asserting possible contamination. They proposed alternate theories, suggesting that the suspect may have merely been in the wrong place at the wrong time, yet the prosecution stood firm. They bolstered their case with surveillance footage, witness testimonies, and a timeline that placed the suspect at the scene during the crucial hours of Madeline's disappearance. They argued that the evidence was more than coincidental. It was conclusive. The trial was a whirlwind of emotions. Tears were shed, voices raised, and the courtroom was often punctuated by the sound of a gavel demanding order. The prosecution and defense battled fiercely, each side determined to convince the jury of their narrative. As the trial neared its end, the anticipation was immense. The jury deliberated for 2 long days, wrestling with the weight of their responsibility. And then, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The jury filed back into the courtroom, their faces solemn, the verdict in their hands. As the trial concluded, the verdict sent shockwaves through the community. In the wake of the trial, the community was left to grapple with the loss of Madeline and the shocking revelations of her case. The once quiet and peaceful town was shaken to its core, as the reality of what had transpired began to seep into every home, every heart. Madeline's family, left in the aftermath of a tragedy that no one should ever have to endure, were thrust into a spotlight they never sought. Yet they remained steadfast, channeling their grief into action. They set up the Madeline Soto Foundation, dedicated to supporting victims of violent crime and their families. They became advocates, using their platform to push for better victim support services and more stringent background checks. The impact of Madeline's case was felt far and wide, prompting changes within the local law enforcement. The police department, criticized for their initial handling of Madeline's disappearance, implemented new procedures and policies. They introduced mandatory sensitivity training for their officers and established a dedicated division for missing persons and homicide cases. The case also led to the implementation of Madeline's Law, a local ordinance that mandates immediate action and thorough investigation in cases of missing persons, regardless of the circumstances. This law has since been adopted in several other jurisdictions, serving as a testament to Madeline's lasting impact. In the classrooms and the coffee shops, in the parks and the homes, discussions were held, lessons were learned, and change was initiated. The community, once paralyzed by shock and grief, found a way to turn their pain into purpose. Yet as the town moved forward, the memory of Madeline Soto remained. Her smile, her laughter, her spirit, they lingered in the hearts of those who knew her and those who came to know her story. Though justice was served, the memory of Madeline Soto lives on, a stark reminder of a life cut tragically short. Her legacy continues to inspire change, and in that, Madeline Soto, the girl with the infectious smile and the heart full of dreams, lives on.